Hi there, Randy Green here. In this little podcast, I want to talk about Principle 2, respond with equal energy and consciousness. But before I go there, I want to share a little bit of a personal experience in the work with the principles, by the way, which have assisted me in challenging me in all of my strengths and my weaknesses and why I do this work, right? And today, since I've now begun doing the sessions again and have got the readings on the randygreen.one website under the extra tools, the extra HAL tools, where you can either choose to work with me for 3 months or you can do one of these readings, aside from, of course, the HAL Academy courses, which I keep referring to. But Principle 7 is the correct commitment is key to any progress. And in that, the principle governs the ambitions of what we commit to in life, energetically and psychologically. And physically, that's what I meant. All we have learned from the previous principles should at this point be a natural part of the energetic influential sphere the heart field produces, fueling our brain field to perceive the realities we need to see to do our work. Based upon this information, using the principles, the rules, and the laws, the decisions can be made as in what to do, where to go, and what to choose to get all in to get the highest progression rate. So correct commitment is very important. And since I've now begun this work, I had a lot of, this is me and my funny inner conversations with whatever's left in our reality on the planetary grids. Right? Because there is this big question, why keep going? Why not just let it go and not persevere and do what needs to be done? But it all has to do with the completion cycle. And I am, aside from all the other stuff I'm doing, as you know, I'm here to complete my own cycles as well as we all are. And that is done in different ways. I, of course, have to follow my path that were instigated with the Pillar Project. So therefore, I have to complete it within the Pillar Project. Of course, you have started somewhere else, and therefore you will also complete it where you have started and not necessarily within the levels of reality I have. But the principles and the rules and the laws are part of the original agreements we made between the human and the humanoid races. So therefore, we kind of covers all bases. But just to put it in context, so you don't think, oh yeah, this apply for all. For some it does and for some it doesn't. But there is always good insight to get in the inner work when we work with why we're doing what we're doing. And so the question was, of course, why I do the work I'm doing. Do I have the correct commitment to do this? And the question was, do you do this because you challenge yourself? You want to prove that you're right? So that's a good point, right? I want to make this work. I want to make it a success kind of thing. But that's actually not my take. For me, discovering to all of its levels that it has failed is just as much a completion as getting it to its highest level of success. Because in the highest progression rate, we let go of things that cannot complete itself, that has failed, that hasn't got the right code systems, that doesn't have the right genetic signature, and cannot live to further the work of consciousness with energy to create the correct type of life force. That, by the way, has nothing to do with the bodily energies. It is within the density fields and the original realities. That type of life force is code systems. So that has nothing to do with the physical form and what we are doing down here in this little enclosure of ours, but has everything to do with the original ways we used to exist. So the highest progression rate is, of course, to create a trinity of consciousness and energy units and life force that is of its highest potentials, the purest, the highest standards, and the highest progression rate, so that what will transfer into the next cycles will be of the highest quality possible. So that's the goal with the work. So this has nothing to do with personal challenges or that I personally would like my investment and my sciences and what I made and were part of to become a success. Of course not. This is about the failure is just so much a success as it is for me, because then I can derive learning lessons from it. That is also a completion, evaporating that and say, yeah, that project didn't work. Okay. How do we solve it then? Then leading to a new process where progression and development of consciousness and energy, transformation of energy can take place. So it's not about having to succeed anything. Everything is a success, even a failure. I don't know how this sounds, but it is. The failure is just as much a success as the success itself, because that also leads to a process. Anything that leads to a process or a completion in its right order and level of existence is equally good, because the failure leads to evaporation, and then that potential is gone. So that's also success. So that is what drives me, as in kind of saying, yeah, could this project actually have had wings if we haven't had the timeline event? And then come to that conclusion, and then we can use it in other systems and use it as a model. And that's some of the information, feedback I give to the councils. Or has it failed not because of the timeline event, but because in it itself was not possible to do, first and foremost, with the humanoids? That's another part of my investigation, and some of the reasons why I'm in so many different circumstances, right? Because we need to figure this one out. Are we going to use this project somewhere else, or are we going to shelf it and say that's part of history and that is some of the things we did and we're not going to do that again? So this is the assessment that must be done in everything that we are doing. That trinity of the principles are also tied into the correct expression of energy and the correct utilization of power. And that, of course, goes with the commitment. What are you doing here? Because if you're kind of thinking, oh yeah, I want to do this for my personal gain, then you're of course twisting the use of energy and power into distortion, right? You're doing it for selfish purposes. So that's why we always keep it for the highest good of the many. And there we have to be very mindful that you are not self-adjusting things you know that are wrong and then giving it the label, oh yeah, for the highest good of the many, because then you know better than the humanoids that are saying, yeah, we need to crack some eggs to make an omelet, right? So that's for the highest or the greater good. Of course not. You're not sacrificing throwing people into the fire so that someone else can be saved. That's not the main goal. The main goal is to activate people's potential so that they have all of the possibilities of their own progression. Whereas if you decide for them what's right and wrong for them, you are taking control of their energy field and their destiny. And that's not what true humans do. We don't do that. It's all up to people. That's what it is applied in a way in what we call free will, right? But free will can only truly be exercised if we have the full understanding of things, if we have the full knowledge behind everything, the sciences, the possibilities, the probabilities, what the effects would be of the work that we're doing and how to do it within the laws of the sector that we are part of, within the rules of engagement of how we are amongst each other, and within the principles so we can make right choices that leads to the highest purity rate, the highest standards, and the highest progression rate, which will then have the side effect of leading for the highest good of the many. So we're not thinking, oh yeah, I'm doing this project for the highest good of the many, which was some of the things that happened in the Syrian workstation that went to the councils with the timeline event and all these kind of things. And it was voted upon, and I was voting against it, but it was voted upon, and it was agreed that that would probably lead to some good, what we call transformational processes, and that would solve some of the issues we had in the previous cycles and the previous universal structures. But again, it's also a matter of saying, well, compared to where we are now, compared to what was left behind, should it then have been brought into the current existence and the current cycles? And that is where I said no, because it failed back then. So why should it? Why should it succeed now? But this is again where there's a little bit of hybrids going on. Yeah, just because you are in the next cycle, you always think you are better than you were in the previous cycle. And that is also wrongful use of energy and wrongful use of power and the wrongful type of commitment. Just to put that into a trinity, so you kind of work a little bit with that one and then contemplate on, okay, what would the right solution be for that one? And again, at that point in time and on these levels of reality, it is a council decision for all of the members of the councils. And it's not just, oh yeah, we'll do a little bit of a debate around the table, right? It is a huge council we're talking about, and all things are seen from all levels. And yet there are still insecurities, and that will be calculated upon. The timelines will be expanded into the future possibilities and probability rates and see what that will lead to and what will be the effects be, etc., etc. So it's not just a simple thing, right? But this is when you go higher up with the principles. Principles 7, 8, and 9 also goes hand in hand with density 3 or LPRF3, where we have in other terminology kind of the 7th, 8th, and 9th dimension, which are represented in our system by the Arcturians in the 7th, the Orions in the 8th, and Andromeda in the 9th. So again, so that also goes with these races. So not that they are following these laws or these principles, but just saying that if you want to do it dimensionally, that's the Stargate system that relies to. So that is also some of the implications that were taught in the 511 Pillar Project, where we were beginning to figure out, okay, what is the correct commitment, the correct use of energy and power, and the gate systems and reality fields, and what are we to develop here so that everything else in these realities and our joint realities can work together. Anyways, that was a little bit of a sidetrack. Again, it is difficult to try and merge the LPU, or the less progressive universal structure, from where we have Stargate 7, 8, and 9 with the original true human worlds, because these are technically completely two different types of universal structure, so can't really be compared, but there are what we call crossovers in that one. So going back to principle 2, respond with equal energy and consciousness, the principle gives the answer of how to interact with humans or doing the progression work. And here you just got the highest level, and I'm taking it down to kind of the beginner's level. And we're here talking both inside the base program, but mostly these are again related to the higher order energy system and how you get that one activated. But you have to do it in this physical form to activate your higher order energy system. That is a little bit of the catch-22. This is not just done in meditation. This is also done in practical life, because as you clear more and more of the timelines and your higher order energy system begins to reconnect to your biofield in this physical form, if this physical form is messed up and not functional and you're doing all the stuff you know that's wrong, you will quickly twist the codes of the original holographic energy field that you have behind this physical form, and your work will have been for naught. So you have to learn to be a good human first. And what you know is wrong, stop doing it, because you know it's wrong. And I know this is a fight. That is the inner fight, the difficult fight with everything that you are. You will discover it's not that easy just to say, oh, I stop doing it. There is work that needs to be done, because there is so many layers in you that are engineered or have been engineered, and karmic residuals of past lives where you didn't master it either, that you have to master in this life. So there's a lot of work to be done. It's not just saying, I want to do this, and then you wake up and it's done. It is a very long piece of work that needs to be done, clearing work to get into all of the corners of that pattern before you can release it. And that's part of the deep or the advanced psychological work that we can do, which begins with normal psychotherapy, but then goes into the spectrum that is connected to your energy fields and the layers that you are made of. So we respond to the level of other people's awareness, and we are only to give them what they can hold of energy. And I explain this much, much more in details in the classes. Here we're just doing the YouTube overview, right? So let me start reading again without the explanation so you get it in full. The principle 2, respond with equal energy and consciousness. The principle gives the answer of how to interact with humans, not doing the progression work. We respond to their level of awareness and only give them what they can hold of energy. If we give them more information and energy than they can hold, the chances are high of activating levels in them which they are not ready to hold that type of energy and with that type of that awareness, because they have not learned to administer it yet. So we are not just sharing everything that we have learned when we begin to work with the higher order energies, because these people have not chosen to do so. So we cannot push it upon them. They have to choose it themselves, no matter how much you want them to do this. This is where you go in and work with the understanding of compassion we have talked about in the Buddhist teaching series, where you go in and understand, yes, you need to be able to contain the suffering that people are not interested in doing this work alongside with your own suffering, so that you don't try to act out or react to the suffering to take it away because you can't bear it. You have to sit with it and just really sit with that pain and then transform it and learn to be in it whenever you observe it. Of course, you can feel with what other people feel, because you can do that. I do that often when I'm in my more human form. I feel what other people are feeling, because there I have my higher energies coming into this physicality, amplifying the sensations I get from other people, their energy. So I feel that in my physical form. But when I go up in energy, I see the patterns behind and I work with that information in a different manner. So I'm not losing my empathy. It's part of my physiological structure. I'm just using it within the context of the higher order sciences, which then gives another layer of information to the suffering sensation and the pain that it gives when we feel other people's pain, or we are feeling pain because we have a project for them, which we, of course, is not to impose on them, as in kind of, they could ask, what do you want me to do? And then, of course, you could say, you do the classes, do this and do that, whatever. But at the end of the day, it's not my project. It's up to them to take the tools that are offered. And if people don't want it, you can offer, it's like you can pull the horse to the waterfront, but you can't force it to drink. If it doesn't want to drink, it doesn't want to drink. You can't do a damn thing about it. And even if it's sick or it's ill and all of these kind of things, and just want the best for the horse because you love the horse or whatever's going on, you have no say in this. This is out of your control completely. So what you can do is work with your own emotional responses to this and see, okay, my horse is sick. It wants to die. That's why it's not drinking. It stopped peeing. It's taking out its kidney function so it can begin to shut down its organs. That's why it's not drinking. It wants to die. So because you love it and you can't let go, you're putting that animal through suffering. So this is wrongful use of energy and wrongful use of power and wrongful commitment. And that has to be taken into principle too, because they overlap each other. And this is, again, of course, if you're the beginning, you will align it with principle 1 and principle 3, because that's the lower trinity of it. But it connects to a higher trinity, as in correct commitment with what you're imposing on others and on yourself, what you embark on, what you choose to do of projects. Because when you do the progression work and the developmental projects, it has to go into a project that leads to transformation of energy. So that's where that one comes in. But you have to have that complete understanding of where other people are. That is part of what is called loving kindness, where you are truly able to see who and what they are. And I teach that in the classes as well. So this is not just taking out of the blue. There are many different layers of information that goes with it. Okay, so back to principle 2. But the other side of it is that if people are holding dark energy patterns and you come in with all of your light and they're not interested, nor the patterns, nor the people, then you will come in and create more harm than good if you're trying to impose these ideas upon them. Either they want to do it themselves or they don't want to do it themselves. And they say, well, they can't do it because they are not awake and they are not aware and they don't know of these things, so I have to teach them these things. And this is where, when we go into more of the energies of the completion cycle and the resetting of our planetary system, if they do not awaken by that, there is not anything in the world you can do for them. And that is suffering too, because that's painful. To see people you love and you care and you can't do a damn thing for them other than try to take away their pain or try to absorb some of their negative energies or whatever you want to do. And then you see that you are taking away your own progression potentials. So that is, again, what is the highest good of the many there? What is the balancing principle here? What are you supposed to do? Are you just using the normal human capacities and kind of, I can't just let them rot up. I know this. I got the tools. I need to take care of them. Yes, if it's your child. But if it's your mother or your father or your partner or someone that is connected to something else than you, and probably something completely else which you can't see because you don't want to see it, then you are literally using your energy in the wrong way, because you can't handle the pain. You are trying to fix it in others. So this is, again, when we talk about, why do I keep doing this? Am I doing this because I feel pain? Yes, of course I do. I feel pain for this world and where we have gotten, and the failure and the timeline and the shit that has happened. I cried my tears all of it. You should see if my tears could fill up, if one tear was similar to a penny or something, I would be a zillionaire by now. So it has nothing to do with I'm a cold-hearted bitch. Not at all. But it has to do with, as you work through these levels and you remember the history and you begin to see things as they actually are and not what you want them to be, and you learn to understand something you can change and something you can't change, and you accept that, then you go in and put the right commitment in what actually is changeable, just to figure out if it's not changeable. Then you let it go. You let it go. Because you can't do anything about it. And if you persist, that will take you down the drain into the mud with them, because they are not willing. They are literally like, and again, this is a bad analogy because that's a moral issue, and it hurts all our emotional feelings. But if you're out climbing the Himalaya mountains and the one you are tied to falls over the cliff and cannot in any way or form be salvaged, what do? Do you hang there with that person in the rope until he or she dies, and you have got so suffocated and you have no water and you have nothing and you are depleted of all sorts of energy, so you barely can climb up yourself? What pain can you bear? Can you cut that person loose while he or she is still alive and have a chance? Or do you wait until you know they don't have a chance and then you cut them loose, and then you have less to work with, but you still wait to see if there is this possibility? And in a way, that is a good representation of me, because I can't just cut people loose right away. I'll stick around until I'm sure there are no further potentials, as in failure, or he or she has died. Then it's just now I move on. And then I figure out how to deal with myself. And I might have to climb slower, and it might be a tough ride for me and will take me longer time than if I had just done what I need to do. And again, what happens if it's in a snowstorm? And all of these situations, how do you respond to that? You don't really know what you're made of until you stand in that situation. So that's part of principle 2 as well. So, and with this, not really activating levels in them, which they are not ready to deal with. And in doing so, the feedback to our energy system will be that we are not ready either to hold that awareness, because we cannot administer it yet. We are not using that knowledge correctly. We are using that knowledge to stop suffering because we can't bear it. So that's one of the tough choices, and that can easily be twisted into the distorted level of the humanoids, right? For the greater good, we'll just sacrifice whatever, we'll just do what's best for ourselves, the service to self orientation. That's where that gets completely twisted out. So the balance point is here to be achieved again, not to cut loose too soon, but learn to work with it as long as you can, and in manners that you can see that is amplifying, supporting them to the height of their abilities. And when there is no further to work with and they are responding negatively and they can't do that, and the darkness grow in them and they're literally beginning to attack you and turn around you, and then you just say, okay, I'm out. I've done what I could. Bye. But you have to take the patience and the time, and you have to scrutinize yourself on every step of the way. Why are you doing this? Are you doing this because you can't bear the pain, or are you actively doing this because you really want to assist them in their growth potentials, and in that learn all of your own weaknesses and look into yourself and see what are you actually doing here, so it will become a deep learning process for yourself as well, where you will see all of your own darkness and all of your own weaknesses and everything that you need to work with. So you question everything you do. You're not just doing it because you're on the high horse. You are down from the horse. You are dragging the horse, and you are, just to put it in context again, this is complicated inner work, and there are no easy solutions here. These are all processes of progression. And in these processes, we develop our consciousness potentials. We weed out the distorted code systems that leads us to the wrongful use of energy. And we develop ourselves in a new direction that will take us to the highest purity rate, the highest standards, and the highest progression rate. And these are not easy fixed questions, as in kind of, do this and then do that. At the beginning, you will take hours and days, perhaps months, to figure out how to actively use one principle correctly. And you will work with it as long as you need, not until your energy system has built the building blocks that are lacking with that principle. Will you let it go? It will not be let go until you have completed it. So reality, that part of principle 4, will show back, mirror back to you the level of work that you have to work with. Not what you want in your head, not what you want in creative stories about who you are, how good you are, how far you have reached, and you are so self-damn righteous, right? No, this is all about, if you have not learned the principle, it will continue to show you in circumstances how to deal with it. So you transform your energy patterns, so you transform the energy in you, so you rebuild your energy system, so you get aligned with your core essence. That's the goal of the principles. Working with the principles is energy work. It is not moral, ethic, mind processing, intellectual reasoning decisions. It's completely else. And only your heart, in a way, can truly teach you what's the right way and the wrong way. And sometimes you will take the wrong path. And then you will learn by that experience when you are in there surrounded by gnawing creatures that are looking at you. And then you feel, okay, what do I need to do here? How do I need to clear that? How do I need to transform that? What is going on? And then deal with it. And then not just run away because you got yourself there. So why are you in that position? What is it that you need to learn? What is it that you need to transform? What level of your consciousness units are you lacking? That's the work, not intellectual decisions, not based upon fear, emotional response mechanisms, or the fear of suffering, the fear of, oh, you're not good enough, or the fear of whatever. You are doing this because you need to grow and you need to get yourself back on track. And only by breaking your comfort zone and not challenging yourself, as in kind of challenging yourself when you work with other people. This is challenging ourselves when we work with our own psychological structure, because we can't challenge ourselves using others. That would be wrongful use of other people, the 12 choices of living, right? We can't use others to grow ourselves. So we can't say, oh yeah, I'm doing this so you can grow. And by that, I can grow. So that's why I invest myself in it. No, that will be the beautiful side effect of it, but you don't do it because of it. So this, when we really get to the highest principles where you really learn to work with energy, these subtleties are so refined that it's almost impossible to make the right choice. You will for sure make the wrong choice. And that's the whole goal with these higher levels, because the higher level you get up in energy, the more complex information patterns you're working with, and the larger the ramifications of your choices. When you work with more simple information systems, the complexity of them is more simple, and the results and the effects of them will be less dangerous. It will have a shorter range. The higher you get up in energy, the longer range your decisions will have. As in kind of, yeah, when you work with the 7, 8, and 9, you're on the galactic level. So if you fuck up that choice, you're fucking up a galaxy, right? And everything that's in it. So, yeah, perhaps I should think a little bit just to put it in context. You kind of understand and say, yeah, why even do that? Because there are ramifications when you work with energy and consciousness. There are huge ramifications. And that's why when we reach the 7, 8, and 9, it's all done in councils, or should be done in councils. The dark worlds are not, but it should be. The Dark Avatar Collective are not, but it should be. Okay? So this is part of our understanding of things, that we have that in context as well. So in a way, whatever we're doing, whenever we fail, we are not saying, oh, this is a fucking failure, and then shame yourself and blame yourself. No, this is where you're going to say, okay, I clearly have a lot of things to learn before I master that level of energy, because that principle, I have not nailed it yet. So energy system in meditation, self-clearing work. What do I need to do? What is the next step of this learning process so I can master this level? Not because I want to be good and find a success, but so I can figure out, okay, what is not functioning correctly in my energy system? Reconstruction, self-repair process. Not to gain something. Self-construction, self-repair, self-scanning, self-development, because you are your biggest responsibility, and what you are will affect the world around you. The more you work with energy, the more your influential sphere will affect other people. And if you're fucked up, you will fuck them up. If you're pristine, you will initiate a process where they can be as well, but you cannot change what they are. And that's kind of the little bit of the side of it. Kind of, then why even do the point? If I kind of can become pristine and the example of all the goodness and kindness in the world, and I can affect other people with it, then I will do it. Yes. What's behind that one? That you can't bear that they are not doing the work. You are doing that so you become perfect, so you can lift them with your energy, because you can't bear that they don't want to do it. Again, go back in and look. No, that's not the right commitment. Because you will discover in that process, again, you can be the most perfect, angelic being with the signature of God above your head and your bright wings flowing all around the place, and you can emit the purest energy of all sorts. And you will discover that field will have unforeseen consequences. One, if it's something that holds no viability that can respond to it, it will evaporate completely. Two, if it does hold a response that can respond to that energy, and with having sorts of viable genetics, but there is only 10% left and the other 90% are dark, then the dark thing will respond to protect the 10% it's sustaining from, so you can't take it. So you'll get into a warring situation, and onward and so forth. So in essence, when we come to that level of understanding, the true amplification can only happen between two people that are deeply engaged in the progression work on the same level. That's principle 6, the correct partnerships. So this is how you are to understand the principles. Okay, principle 2 also allows for actions that can be looked for in our encounters with other dimensionals, as well as outer dimensionals and inner dimensional and meta-dimensionals and what have you. On all levels, it doesn't matter. Whatever comes your way, that is up for scrutiny of the correct way of behaving energetically in yourself, around others, and as part of reality. However, it sets the standards for dealings with humans used as a tool to harm us, or moreover, it sets the standards for dealings with humans used as a term to harm us. And that's part of some of the reversal that has happened to the original technologies. That was what was once a good tool for our developmental process have now become a tool from where they can unjustifiably, quote unquote, punish us and push us into their distorted schemes and artificial timelines because we have done wrong to their whatever. Anyways, that's a whole other level of manipulation I will not go into. Here we're just trying to get back on track with what we used to do. Just understand there's, on this level that goes with the heart field, there's always the opposition that you also need to deal with, and use that as a force to create synergy and create harmony and create developmental processes instead of feeling victimized by it. So in the end, however, the principle 2, the use of principle 2 to defend and to protect is only for activated humans knowing how to work with genetics and energies, aiming at a result for the highest good of the many. The response is not on emission of energy, but the appropriate level of evaporation only when we are interfered with. Just to put it in there, because those of you who have warrior traits, you are to figure out how principle 2 apply to you, as well as diplomats have a different approach to principle 2. Scientists have another approach to principle 2. So all depending on our original capacity and our original chosen lineage of developmental processes and programs and realities, these principles will show their manner according to our energy system and energy imprints. They will show us our weaknesses and what we need to work with to become whole again. That all of these fragments that we have will be restored and reconstructed by using the principle in the right manner according to our energy system. Very important. So one will use principle 2 in one way and another one will use it in another way. But that is not, again, to go in and self-justify. Oh yeah, I'm doing it this way because I'm that. Then already in saying so, you're off. That's selfish already there. So it's so subtle. And as I said again, it is in the end not an intellectual process. It is the understanding of how energy works and how energy affects consciousness, and the ability to see the code systems that will give you the right answer. And once you have mastered that level of understanding, what that is, not intellectually, but code system, energy, and consciously, wisely, you will see that that will complete the principle, because then you have shown you are mastering the ability to work with energy using the principle in the correct manner. From that, you will develop knowledge and consciousness that will then teach you how to make the right choices from that level on. And with that level, I want to end this video and see you in the next and final video on Principle 3, because I'm not going to go through all the principles here on YouTube. You can do them in my classes if you really want to use the original ways of rebuilding the energy system that goes with the higher order sciences and everything that is connected to the deepest levels of our existence and how we are to truly self-repair and self-reconstruct who and whatever we are, so that we can make the right choices at the end of this cycle. Thank you.